You're listening to the LaRocque Life Podcast, where hosts Michael and Laura explore relationships, adventure, freedom, and just some all-around real and raw conversations, drawing from their 17 years together with a bit of sarcasm, humor, tears, a few and lots of love. They deep dive into the male and female perspective on relationships and navigate the highs and lows of life together. Sit back, grab your love mug, and let's get into today's conversation.
All right, babe. Episode 48. What are we talking about?
We're going to talk about, doing work on your relationship for your children. And I mean, that could go a few different ways because I know some people, don't want to do the work on themselves or don't think they need to do the work on themselves. But, or maybe some of us are just too lazy to do it, the work. I know that would be me at some point, some days.
Well, not everyone has kids either, right? But
yeah. So I guess this might be more like aimed towards parents for sure, or people who want to have kids one day. I mean, ultimately, I think that might be the ideal situation, right? And I'm so grateful that we did a lot of stuff before we had Lennox. I mean, but it's almost like been magnified since we've had Lennox, right? Because now he's here and it has to be done. But this is just a conversation that really came up a lot this past week with some couples from our Safe and Wild program. We had one-on-one calls with them afterwards, and we had a really good discussion for sure with one of the couples about just raising kids and how this course or like this program of Safe and Wild really opened both of their eyes to how they, I guess, communicate, how they interact, how they treat each other. And they have a young boy. And so really like what they're teaching their child, right? Indirectly, right? Oh,
no, absolutely. And I talked about this, I guess, today too. Well, I've actually been harping on it a little bit with a few people. Just about I want to be that example for Lennox and to see that. And we have different generations of everybody, right? Especially today, I talked to a lot of older men and it just different parents, different ways of doing things, and them themselves have different ways of doing things, and they raise their kids a different way. But I almost overdo it, I say to people, but I don't think I don't think you can. But telling Lennox I love him like fucking 10 times a day, right? And just always hugs, always kisses, and all these different things. But I just want to make sure that he knows that he is loved and that it's not a bad thing to do that. But on the same end, we work through a lot of things with, fighting and fixing, like working out in the garage and doing different mechanic stuff, just doing everything, right? So trying to make him that well-rounded man, I guess, that I want to see. And being very intentional with it because of the work we do, right?
Yeah.
So it's, we're lucky, or I'm lucky anyway, because I get to see what a lot of men are missing. And I study a lot of different books, watch a lot of videos, just different mentors, all kinds of things. So everything I do, I work on myself, but then I get to directly work with Lennox on it too, right? And the biggest thing for me is that he gets to see a relationship, how it should work. Again, it's not all rainbows and butterflies by any means, but at least he can see us laughing and crying and hugging and dancing and kissing and just having fun and whatever, right? Like tonight, for example, was just awesome at supper. Like it's just fun, and I never had that growing up. Or if I did, I don't know if I blocked it out or what, but I don't remember those times of just like we're just fucking around, like laughing, having a good time and joking and talking about our day, and just it's fucking awesome. Like it's amazing.
And we made fun of you a little bit.
And then I'm the butt of the joke a bit, which is fair.
Me and Lennox were just laughing our butts off.
And that's 100% fair because normally I'm the smart ass fucking making fun of people. So it's good to be, it has to go the other way. But no, it's amazing for myself just to go through that. And like I say, I was talking to a lot of older men today, and it's fucking, even they're dumbfounded, and they like ask a lot of questions about it, right? And like how things are and the way times are. And it's a fine line, and I'm trying to walk that still between, we have to be very emotional, and yes, we have to open up and be vulnerable, but at the same time, we still have to be men in the sense of we got to protect, we got to provide, we have to do different things. Well, it's like we're going hunting tomorrow even, right? Like it just things like that. It just
Hunting what?
yeah, we're going hunting gophers. Even Lennox thought it's funny though, because Lennox asked me when we were going to bed. He's like, Mike. He's like, Dad, why are we gonna go hunting gophers? Like, what are we doing it for? And I was like, oh, just to just to help keep their populations down and stuff. He's like, but they're so nice. Like, why are we doing that? Because I think he gets why we'd hunt a deer or a moose or something, right? To eat.
Yeah.
Because he asked, he's like, well, are we gonna eat them? Because we watched a video on those survival guys that were eating gophers and squirrels or whatever, right? So he's like, are we going to eat them? I'm like, probably not. He's like, well, why are we going to hunt them? It's like, to keep the population down.
Oh, yeah, that's funny. You didn't tell me that yet. So that's
no, it just happened. So it's kind of interesting. But at the same time, it's just, it's like, it's funny. And like I say, it's a fine line between, he's very emotional and very in touch with that and very sensitive guy. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like he'll be.
On that topic, I wonder how he'll do with it because he's never seen anything get shot, has he?
No, not in his young life. No.
And I mean, this may even be triggering some people because I know some people these days are just really against shooting anything. But
I guess.
We're farm kids and you shoot gophers.
Yeah, they fuck with your life. And if I'm training horses and my horse steps in a fucking gopher hole, I'm going to find every gopher I know and kill that fucker. So.
But it's funny. I can say that. But then in the same note, like, I don't even know if I've ever shot a gopher because it hurts my heart as well. I mean, me and my grandma, she used to catch moles in the yard and then like if they weren't dead, like smash them. I can talk about my grandma like this now because she's passed away.
It's hard as fuck though, yeah.
Yeah, she's passed away, so she won't know and no one can go after. But like, yeah, if we would catch gophers actually in the yard or moles and if they weren't dead, then she would, is this appropriate to say? I don't know. like kill them with a bat or like a stick because you have to kill them once they're trapped, right? But it always did break my heart because I am very sensitive. And I was like in 4-H and I was that girl who when I had to sell my calf, I'd like cried my face off for days. So then I took a heifer so I didn't have to sell the heifer. But anyways, coming back to gophers, one time my brother and I snared a gopher and then like with bale twine and then I wanted to keep it as a friend, like as a pet. And I wanted to cage it and stuff. My grandma's like, you are not doing that. And then I don't remember what ended up happening to it. I'm sure my brothers killed it, but this is like a really, this turned really.
Well, I mean, that is what it is.
Your farm kids are going to understand.
Yeah, and you'll get it, right? But I mean, it's all going to be it's all very interesting and to teach him about that. And this is just learning life and the life cycles and death. And
yeah. Well, I'm going to totally cut you off here because I want to make sure that we touch on this. It's very in tune with like your theory on that hard times create weak men. No, good times create weak men. That's it, right?
Yeah, that's that whole from Stefan Arno, and even Stefan Arno said he got it from someone else, but it was good times create weak men create hard times create strong men create good times.
Yes, okay. And so we're in this point now of weak men?
Yeah, we went through the good times and I think we're definitely through the good times, depending your situation, I suppose. But now it's weak men are creating bad times or hard times because we're just not following.
There's just not that masculinity in that.
No, we're not following the rules of nature,
that
man.
Leadership. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a super interesting time and this all really intrigues me, but I do. Like you would say this all the time about like men just playing video games and not the interesting thing I think I learned in this past year, even to myself. And I mean, I've known this before. I take advantage of my mom hardcore because she's like cans everything, grows like the biggest garden. Like we're so lucky because she gives us so much awesome stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I never really, like I did it a bit with her in high school and stuff, but then, and even bread, like she'd be like, oh, come help me make bread. I'll teach you how. And like I had no desire to, and it's just super lame because she makes the best bread. But I mean, it's probably a blessing now because it's not good to eat that much bread.
Fuck, it's good though, yeah.
But anyways, so I totally relate to this, like with my mom in a way of like, I should have learned these things, but it's like, it's different times. We became so dependent on the grocery stores, right? Like it's convenient. You can go get whatever you want and it can even be a healthy version. So like we don't have to work as hard as like say for example my mom does. But that's in her blood. She'll do that till the day she dies, but the next generation's coming up. Like a lot of us don't do that. We don't have to do that, but in this year, it taught us like, well, we probably should do that, right? Because it really learned how dependent we are on systems and just, yeah, like the food industry, like everything, right? We're not self-sufficient at all. And so just tying that back into men, right? You always say like a lot of men just play video games and they're not very like motivated and driven. And how many men do really like feel that purpose, but like get out in the garage and like make shit or like go hunting and know how to really provide for their families. Like if everything got taken away from us, it would really be a survival of the fittest, right?
Oh, it'd be an easy time, I think, for the men I know anyway. It'd be hilarious because I mean, you're already 80%, you're ahead of 80% of the field, I feel. Like it would literally be like a week, 2 weeks, and it would be fucking pandemonium, and it'd be, you know, people are gonna start coming to your house and saying, "Hey, want some of your fucking food? What do you got?" Right? And a lot of men would be like, "Oh, I don't know, like, you can't do this. You're gonna call the police." Like, fucking police are busy, or they're somewhere else taking care of themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
that's like if life went to complete shit, right?
Like it wouldn't take long though, and things would get pretty hairy pretty fast. And I'm a big believer in like we have to be dangerous men, and that's why I keep telling Lennox. Like, I mean, I tell him that, and I'm trying to ingrain it in him. Like, fuck, you're the boogeyman. Like, I mean, we always see that, right? Like,
don't be afraid of the monster. You're the boogeyman.
Yeah, like you're the boogeyman. Scare the fuck out of that monster, and he'll be scared of you. Like he should be scared that you're on top of the bed and he's under the bed, kind of thing, right? And I try to tell him this all the time. Like, you're the boogeyman, because you have to be a dangerous man. I want every guy that I know to be a fucking dangerous man, but be a controlled dangerous man.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that really gets you. Like being I don't even know what you call it, like a pessimist or a pessimist. Like you just being a guy that's, you can be in touch
you
with
mean
your
like passive, like
very passive aggressive, or you can be very in tune with your feelings, which is great. And I want you to be a dangerous man and in touch with your feelings, but being kind of two-faced, being manipulative, being that guy that's like climbing the corporate ladder any means necessary, thinking you're this hard ass, but you're really not. And you're not a dangerous guy. You don't know how to fight. You don't know how to provide. You don't know basic survival skills. That's you're dangerous, but you're dangerous in a different way. Like you're danger that you would stab someone in the back to get ahead and things like that.
Right, like more in the mind, like the mind perspective of
it. Like I want a dangerous man that could fight, that can provide, that knows how to use a knife, knows how to use a gun. That's danger, but at the same time, be vulnerable, be stoic in the sense of, I'll provide for my family. I'll protect my family at any cost. I'm not going to, but I still have morals. I still have values. I still have, what would be the word? Just, I guess that would be it. Like have strong values of community and keeping your tribe. And that would be the things that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I've been reading a lot of books like on the native histories and just how life was, even life before contact, and how we just lived off the land and provided for our communities. And there was still a lot of fighting. There was a lot of inter-tribe fighting, and then there was fighting outside of tribes and just doing whatever that looked like, right? But at the same time, there was I think there was a big sense of honor, and there's like, I don't know. These times are just crazy. And I like to say, I went through that depression a few years ago, and I think I was just missing a lot of myself, or like missing so much of our instincts. Like, I just wasn't doing any of that. Like, wasn't being physical. I wasn't doing anything like productive. I wasn't really into any hobbies, and it just so many things that get so many men down. And now I see it because I talk to so many of these guys, and we all run into like the same 5 things. It's actually quite simple, but each problem's a little varied, but it all boils down to kind of the same ideas. And I really don't want that for my son.
What are those ideas?
Well, it's definitely physicality. Like whether that's, you don't have to be like crazy workout 3 hours a day or anything like that, but just got to move your body and use your muscles and keep your mind strong in that sense, right? Like you're actually doing something, and then finding a hobby or a passion or just something where you're feeling like you're providing, or you're you're being a productive member of society almost, or
right. Valued, I guess.
Even
right?
working like the wood shop, or you're building something in the wood shop, or you're forging knives, or you're just anything really in that sense. But just keeping your body moving, keeping your mind moving, and that's because when we sit on the couch, my biggest thing was always I'd work at a job that I didn't really like or I hated, and I wouldn't really put a big effort in there, so nothing was really stimulating me there. And then I'd come home, or that whole time I was there, I just wanted to get home and be safe on the couch or be comfortable on the couch. So you get there and you're not doing fuck all there, just eating your feelings away or numbing out to video games or numbing out on your phone. And then your partner looks at you, then you're like, oh, it'd be nice to get laid. But your partner looks at you and you're like, I wouldn't fucking touch you with a 10-foot pole. Like zero attraction factor at all. And then I'm blowing up at my kid who just wants a fucking parent. Like that's the worst thing ever. And that's another big thing. We can talk about that in a bit. But so there's just all these things that you think you're in a comfort zone, but you're just creating more problems for yourself and more. Then you get, like I was dealing with a lot of anxiety because of it. Cause then I would think about the next day, about all the things coming up in the future about work, how much I didn't like it and how much I just wanted to be on the couch while I'm on the fucking couch. It's just like a really vicious cycle, right?
Yeah.
And it was getting me nowhere and nowhere fast, like nowhere with my kid, nowhere with you, nowhere in my career. Like it's fucking terrible. So really stepping into that now and owning it and just being a leader, right? And it starts at home. It starts with yourself, right? Like you have to lead yourself. I have to lead myself in working out. It's non-negotiable. I'm going to work out. Leading myself in eating good. Like I know, like you can go to the store and fucking eat a chocolate bar and hide it from everybody, but you know, you're still, you can't really hide it from everybody over time because they're going to see it. Like you're fat, right? So I mean, just being accountable to yourself and being a leader in your own body, your own mind, like reading at night, making sure I read at night. And I slip too. Like, I mean, there's times where I lay on the couch and just numb out at night to think that's my alone time and stay up all hours of the night. And then I'm fucked up for the morning. Right. And so I just gotta, I chalk that up as a loss and just like, hey, well, tomorrow we'll do better. And just to have that mentality is bigger than, you know, just being depressed about it and feeling let down and then the whole week goes away. Right. Whereas now I can kind of bounce back quite quickly from it. But yeah, just doing that, being a leader with yourself, being a leader in your own house, being a leader in your relationship. And then obviously that leads just to then in my career now. Like, I mean, that goes a long ways for work even, right? So
whoop, whoop, leader of the year in your company.
No big deal. I didn't see that coming either, right? But, you know, it's a national-wide company too. It's pretty big, actually. There's quite a few people. But, yeah, it's things like that goes so far, and it's very surreal to even get that, right? That was last week, or that was this week, I guess, to get that award. And I'm still coming to grips with that because I did not, even that was just 2 years ago, I couldn't even lead myself for fuck's sakes, let alone, you know, and now being.
You quit that company and then asked to stay.
Yeah. Put in I think I set a record. I put in 2 weeks and then asked for my 2 weeks back. And, then,
and they let you.
They took me back and they let me and then and it just, everything kind of turned around from there. But, yeah, man, it's been an interesting journey this past little while. But
I never really thought about that, but it wasn't even 2 years ago. It was only like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I think, isn't it? Or is it 2.5 years ago?
No, it'd be like a year and a half ago. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty crazy. You went from giving your 2 weeks because you were depressed and
overwhelmed and whatever I was doing,
to winning the leadership award for the whole company.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting.
It is, right? And that, again, it's just fucking doing the work. And it stems from my relationship, having you in my corner. And we talk about it all the time. We bang on about team and we talk about a lot of mutual respect. And I mean, it goes a long ways. It really does. And it's one thing. It's another thing I don't have to worry about. Like, I mean, I shouldn't say worry because I hold our relationship at very high esteem and I work at it a lot. And I make sure that I try to bring my best self all the time to it. But it's just something else that I'm not anxious about. Or like it used to always be, you know, we'd be good for a while and then I'd do something. Well, I'd say like 95% of the time it was me. But, you know, I'd fuck something up or go blackout drunk for fucking whatever that looked like. And then we'd have to go through that whole cycle of, you know, you being mad, then me being mad at you, and then getting along, and then there's just all this anxiety and just shitty feelings around it. And but now I just don't have to worry about that. And again, it's not like we don't fight. It's not like we don't not like we don't let each other down or whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But we bounce back so much quicker,
Mm-hmm.
and the communication between it stuffs it out right away, and we get to the bottom of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, having that is just it helps me be a better leader. It helps me just bring my best self to. And now with Lennox, right? I know I've been extremely proud of myself for the parent I've been for the last while. I mean, I wish I'm sure I did. My dad was a fucking great guy from what I remember, but we talk about it now. Like this year he's going to be gone longer than he was in my life. So I've been having a real wrestling match with that for the last couple of weeks of, winning this leadership award and doing all these things, and then not having my dad to talk about it with or celebrate it with. So it's been kind of ebb and flow with that too. But I mean, Lennox doesn't have to deal with that. Like Lennox knows that his dad's there, has his back, and he can talk with him. Right. So it's I don't even know where I'm going. I'm kind of off on a tangent now. I get emotional when I talk about my dad, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. I mean, that's human.
It is. And like I say, the last couple of weeks have been really wrestling with it, but I just didn't, and we talked about that. Like I didn't grieve his death. I don't think, because I was 18. I was like just a puddle. That was when I was drinking from when I was like 15 on, and I just never took time to grieve. I just drank those feelings away, and always drank those feelings away and ran away from them. So this last little bit, I mean, sober, and you got nowhere to go. Like you have to hit those head on, right? So it's been interesting, and it's nothing bad. It's just more of just now of kind of a disappointment of I don't get to share these things with him. Like he got to see me like, rodeoing and hockey and stuff, but he didn't get to see me becoming a man, becoming a husband, becoming like a better husband now, and becoming a dad and being a good dad. He doesn't get to see all that, but I'm sure he sees it somewhere.
Yeah, that's what we were going to say.
Yeah. So it's a lot to wrestle with, but at the same time, at least my mind's right, or as good as can be for what I have to deal with. So it's, again, it all stems back to now Lennox gets to see this.
Yeah.
He doesn't see some loser sitting on the couch or blowing up at him for no reason for wanting to play. Like him and I, now we just fucking played imagination, and we were playing a mining game all morning downstairs. Like, yeah, just fun stuff, right?
Yeah. And I think bringing this back to, okay, so one, the whole, like, I know times are different. Like we're in a different time now, and who knows like what kind of a world we're moving into. I know like really spiritual people are like, oh, we're moving into this like world of love and like all
Aquarius
this.
Or whatever.
Yeah. And I do believe for sure that there is like this coming together, like this unification. But I also am just like, I don't know, humanness, like I don't know how much we can do. But I don't know. There's just so much to think about and to believe. But so I do believe that like we do need to raise our children to be more open and emotional and vulnerable. And I also do believe that a lot of the children who are coming through right now, and myself included, are like starseed children or crystal children, and they are just a different being. Even my dad says that about like his grandchildren. He's like, they're just different. Like they're different than we were. And he's like way different than like I was, right? They're coming through at a different time. And I totally believe they're coming through for a reason, because they are meant to bring more healing and love to our planet. But they also need people to nurture that for them, right? So we all come through as like these love beings, but then life happens and all of the wounds and all the generational traumas get thrown upon kids. And then this, like, it's all unconscious. And then this just continues to play out and play out and play out. So I totally believe that these children are choosing to come through parents now who are choosing to do the work. And even if they're not choosing to do the work either before they have the kids or like when the kids are really little, they do at some point in those kids' lives. And that is to support those kids' gifts, because they're going to go out and spread more love and healing throughout the world. And I don't mean that in like being like big, like energy healers, or like, it's like literally through their presence, right? Like through their being and who they are when they go out into the world. And so just coming back to this whole, I think we need to raise our kids to be very loving and nurture their gifts and those like light qualities, those healing qualities, those vulnerable qualities. But then, yeah, like everything you just explained about still teaching them to know history, be strong, and be able to provide as well, I think, and not always depend on someone to be there to give us the things we're going to need, like the food, the water, right? Like that stuff could just get turned off in a day and we're done. So we're at the mercy of who? I don't know. That could be a topic for another day.
Exactly.
We have those conversations, but maybe Bill Gates. But anyways, so anyways, our conversation with the couple this week was, a lot on like EQ, like emotional intelligence, and how we teach that to our kids. And it's kind of like, well, we teach that to our kids through teaching it to ourselves first, because a lot of us, and so probably a lot of you listening, weren't really brought up in that atmosphere, right? It was like there's only room for one person's feelings and emotions here, and that might be dad's or that might be mom's because they're dealing with their own shit. And the kid, you just sit there and be quiet, right? Like, what is that saying? Our neighbor said it to me the other day for Lennox. It was so funny because he was like, kids are meant to be seen and not heard. And I was like, oh no. I'm like, no, you can't say that. I'm like, oh God, now I'm that person. But I was like, oh dear, that causes people a lot of problems later in life, you know? And he was like looking at me like I have 5 heads, but it was just really funny because I'm like, no, I've been there. And so just totally different generation, right? But again, just so teaching them to be emotionally intelligent comes from us taking initiative and taking charge and learning it ourselves first, right? And you just explained it all. Like, it doesn't mean that we have to be perfect, because we're going to stumble and fall and screw up many, 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 many times. But it's that reconnect again. And that's what I was telling our couple that we were talking with. Like, we screw up a lot with Lennox. Like, we lose our patience and we're just like, dude. But we understand that he's learning how to regulate his emotions. And so as the adults, it's our job to first regulate our emotions, because we're no longer children. Although I do believe that a lot of us adults who haven't done any work or even have started doing work on ourselves, or even have been doing work on ourselves for a long time, still get caught in it, where we're acting out as children.
Right.
And so unless it's in like your conscious mind, it's just a subconscious programming. And that's why you lash out or you lose your shit on your kid or your spouse or someone at work. But if you're conscious of it, then you can learn to regulate your own emotions, which is something we should have learned more as a child. But like I said, a lot of us haven't. And so I still find myself in that place with Lennox too, especially if I'm in pain or really tired. It's like, I don't really have the patience and I will lash out, but then I'm like, right, I'm the adult here. I'm the one who is holding space to teach this child how to regulate his emotions. And so like, I will get down on his level and I'll look him in the eyes. Like, he might be kind of trying to hit me or like throw a little tantrum, because like our Lennox, he'll be like, I can't breathe when he gets like really upset. And I'm talking upset over like not wanting to leave the park or like wanting me to pick him up. And I said no, kind of thing. And he's 4. So I'm like, dude, you can walk. But then there's some days, like obviously when he has less sleep, he just loses his shit really quick too, right? And so instead of me losing my shit on him and like we're both being kids, it's like getting down to his level, and I'll look him in the eyes and I'll tell him to breathe. And I tell him it's okay to feel the way you're feeling, and let's just breathe through it. I'm here with you. You're safe. And those are all the types of things that I'm probably telling my own inner child as well, but teaching him so that he can learn how to regulate his own emotions and then go out into the world and not have to be like us starting at scratch at like 20, whatever, right?
Oh yeah, big time. And we're setting him up, I think.
Yeah. And we talk really openly about a lot of things with him. But the other thing that was like a really big part of the topic that we wanted to touch on too was like, you're teaching, like, even if you think your relationship doesn't need work or it's fine or whatever that the case may be, your child is watching. So if it's fine for you, that's one thing. But if you thought about your daughter or your son who's witnessing and absorbing like a sponge everything that they see you and your partner do, would you be happy with that? Would you be happy to know that they're now in their 20s and their 30s and they're living that life? Whether it's content and it's just, and there's no passion and connection, and whether it's for their partner, but even just for life in general, right? Or if it is fighting and bickering and arguing and maybe some not so good stuff, right? So this is why I like the topic of think about your kids, like think about the future. And this is what I told this couple was that my why is, of course, I want to have a great relationship because it feels awesome. And I love growing with you. And I love how we can talk about anything and all of the things we've worked on to get to this point in our relationship. But when I think about like what makes me tear up, it's about Lennox and my future children and teaching them what they can have and what's possible for them, and to not settle, probably most importantly, not settle for anything less than. And so I can tell him, oh, like make sure you find a wife who's this or that, or, meets these checkpoints. Or I can just be that woman for him, but also for you, and be that woman for myself, obviously. And like you just said, like you're being that for you. So then he's learning who to be for himself, but then to not settle in a partner. And he sees us laugh. He sees us kiss. He sees us like we play fight. Like we do everything, right? And sometimes we do argue. Well, we don't really like argue, but like,
well,
we have our things in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, everything, right? You just talk about it, and it's not like just yelling and screaming. I don't think we're ever those people.
We don't really ever do that, but yeah, like we just like we show him everything. And this was I think I may have said this before on this podcast somewhere, but I had seen a therapist a few years back because I wanted to work on some inner child things, and I wanted this outside perspective, so from someone who did not know me. And I basically, at the end of it, I only seen her for like a few sessions, and I got what I needed. And I basically just said like, so how do I not screw up my kid? I mean, I think first she said, well, don't worry about that because everyone screws up their kid, because obviously our kids all need their own unique individual needs. And so no matter what we think we know and what we've done, we probably won't fill their need, but hopefully we've given them the tools to be able to, work through and move through what they need. But at the same time, she just said the number one important thing that you can teach and show your child is reconnection. And so the reconnection is the important piece, because it's like when you have an argument or when someone screws up and they're not perfect and they failed, or, you are mad at your partner and vice versa, that they see that, but then they see you okay and they see you come back together. So she was like, don't go lock yourself up in your bedroom and cry if you had a bad day at work. Like, be with them and let them see you cry, but then let them see you be okay.
Right.
Right. So obviously, I know that there are people who are listening to this who deal with parents who do have like deep depressions. And I mean, then they become the caretaker of their parent, right? And so I'm not talking about that level of letting them in. That's like some obviously definite issues that need help for sure. But what I'm talking about is like, well, I'll give you a prime example.
Yeah.
With Lennox's teeth, I was really overwhelmed with some things, and I was feeling like a horrible mom, and I was just like, crying my face off because I had to make a few choices about what we were going to do. And I came out of my office and he's seen me crying and then I couldn't stop crying and he got super concerned right away and he came to me and he was just like, Mom, what's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. And I was like, oh, no, honey, it's okay. Like I didn't really want to tell him what was wrong, but I was okay with him seeing me cry. But then he's too smart. So I just said, oh, sometimes I just feel like I'm not as, I can't remember exactly how I worded it. Like sometimes I just feel like I'm not being a good mom or something, or I'm not taking good enough care of you. I'm not taking good care of you, maybe is how I said it. And he was like, but you do. And I was like, well, I know. And like, it's so hard because like, obviously I know I take good care of him and I didn't want to put that on him. But at the same time, like I have to explain to him my tears. And then he was like, because you feed me healthy foods and you put me to sleep. And like the kid's super smart. He knows what like health is and how to stay healthy and what taking care of is. But it was so cute because he like gave me a hug and like basically told me I am doing a good job and he's 4. And then he was like, hey, can we play now? And I was like, yeah, okay.
Had to give you the pep talk.
Super cute. Like to see how fast kids move on. Mm-hmm. And like, that was a really good lesson for me to see that it was like, okay, like just let things go and move on. Like, let's go play. That fixes everything if you can just play, right? Yeah,
that's a good man. He's taking care of his woman. That's what I tell him all the time. You got to take care of her woman.
But so we did. We went and played and he's seen me fine and he's seen me good and like everything was okay from there. Like obviously I had a few more tears by myself, but for the most part, like he knew that I was troubled, but it was something we would move through and we did and everything was good. And so I think that like is exactly what she meant, or not I think, like, but I know that that's exactly what she meant, where it's like, don't hide everything from your kids because they're going to hit the real life as well at some point, and they need to know that there's feelings and there's things that go on, and it's okay to have those feelings and to have these experiences because you will get through them because they see you get through them. Right? Does that make sense the way I explained it?
Yeah, absolutely. I get it. Absolutely do. And it's not like you're putting all that weight on them. It's just you telling them what's going on and off we go, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the important piece. I guess that's what I was trying to get at. It's not like I was like, Lennox, you need to make a choice about your teeth, man.
Yeah.
You got to help me out here. I can't do this. Yeah. It wasn't like that, right? So yeah, that's a really key important part to put. And same with like the relationship, right? Like let them see you argue and bicker or just need your space too. Like I think it is really important for like dad to have his time, mom to have her time, like make it normal so that when they're older and they're like, well, I just want a little bit of space, but apparently that's wrong. Or, they get a feel for who they are and for what's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop talking about it because I could just talk about it forever, but.
No, that's awesome. I mean, time-wise, we're doing good. And I don't know. I feel like we got our point across tonight. It's really good. I like that. Oops. And like I say, I've been banging on a lot about it lately, but it just is. And it's amazing to see. And I mean, again, it's not all rainbows and butterflies by any means, but if he can just get bits and pieces of this stuff, it's going to go miles. I know it will in his life.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, so bringing this back to like why we wanted to talk about it, it's like everyone can be better, right? Like not to say that we're not awesome where we are, but like everyone can always learn and always grow. And so all I'm saying is that if you don't think you need to or that you want to, it's kind of like, well, just ask yourself that question about your kids. Do you want your kids to be absorbing everything that they're witnessing and play that out in their life? And if not, then just start making some changes. Get on the wait list for Safe and Wild.
Yeah, well, it'll do it because now, like, I mean, that's just it. We're prime example of that. You do all this, we do all this work, and we help people, but you have to fucking help yourself, and you got to do it yourself. And we come up with these courses now, and we're like we're the guinea pigs to begin with, right? And we have to practice everything that we preach, and it fucking works, man. Like, I mean, literally, I turned my life around in 1.5 years of from my lowest low to like, I'm living some of my highest highs. So, I mean, it doesn't take much. And it's all that mindset and mentality and some habits and some tools and some tricks and
and learning new skills, right? Like that's your tools and your tricks, right? But that was one of the biggest feedback for sure so far from the couples that went through the first wave of Safe and Wild was like they all learned something and have all implemented something that is changing their relationship.
Yeah.
And this is like what gives me goosebumps is that one thing, whether that's learning how to express your emotion to your partner or how to communicate more with your partner or how to be a team, right? Or learning your roles. That one thing that seems so minute could change, and typically does, change the whole trajectory of your future.
Yeah.
Like one choice changes your whole future
Mhm.
and your kids. And
Exactly.
your kids.
Exactly. Well, I think on that, let's end it. That was awesome. I love it. And like I say, we're getting good with time, and we're getting good with all this stuff. So it's coming along really good. So that was awesome. I love you.
I love you too.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at LaRocque Life Podcast and online at LaRocqueLife.com. Ladies, find Laura on social media at Laura LaRocque and online at LauraLaRocque.com. Have a request for a show topic? We love that. Send us an email at michael@LaRocqueLife.com or DM at LaRocque Life Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.